The opportunity to embrace change is now. There's never been a more exciting time in our era between technological advancements, policy changes, and a real commitment from life sciences across global pharma, biotechs, technology companies, regulatory authorities wanting to come together and improve the rapid pace of drug development.
Welcome to the SCDM podcast series on partnership in clinical trials.
Welcome to the SCDM podcast on partnership in clinical trials. Today we have a very special guest, Marianne Risk. Marianne, for the people who may not know you, do you mind introducing yourself?
Oh, it's such a pleasure. And it's an honor to be here at SCDM once again. So Thank you so much for the invitation. Marianne Risk, I've been in the industry for over 2.5 decades, really pioneering innovation across major transformations, whether it was EDC, RBQM, DCT, big data, and now AI. And so I'm very pleased to be joining here from AWS, serving the community in terms of being able to talk about the future of clinical trials using AI.
Thanks, Marianne. You're right, there's a lot of happening and you have done so much for the industry, talking from the easy transformation paper to DC, moving to now which is really transformational AI. So maybe do you want to share your take on what SCDM is doing and where you see the industry going?
Yeah, so first off, I want to congratulate SCDM for being a community of knowledge, source, insight, and education on these critical transformations. I've been in the journey with you guys for these 2.5 decades, and I can say that there is definitely a movement where the role of a data manager is actually even transforming to a data scientist or even a data orchestrator. SCDM not only brings forward-thinking, right-minded individuals thinking about not just how to create data standards, but what does it mean in terms of providing that impact in clinical trials for patients, sites, and clearly improving drug development. So it's I think an essential organization to be part of, as well as partnering.
Exactly, thanks, Marianne. And as we discussed, we believe the potential of transformation are humongous. And I think, I'm not sure people realize how much could be achieved through AI. Do you mind sharing where you see the biggest, largest transformation in the horizon?
Yeah, so I guess we would say that 2025 is the year of the agentic AI, right? We've seen the movement of AI during the big data years, and then generative AI making it conversational. So you don't have to be a programmer to understand its impact. And so now what's happened is that AI is now part of the business roundtable, right? Where we're having forward-thinking discussions of the impact on how do I do protocol design, site startup, patient recruitment, data management so we can accelerate regulatory submission. And so one of the things that we are focusing on as an industry is how do we bring that agentic AI layer to create business logic so we have better go, no-go decisions. So for instance, when we have appropriate data standards, we can then automate and we can then now create agents to understand running activities so we can improve precision, accuracy, and speed. First time, every time. And that is, I think, transformational.
No, absolutely. And I'm glad you made the point about leveraging, maximizing data. I think people sometimes underestimate how much we can achieve with data. I know we had a discussion with cities on the potential of maximizing standard, connecting them with data. Could you share your perspective on what was discussed and where we can see it going?
Yeah, actually, I have to say it was my favorite session of the organization. And hats off to Chris Decker and a lot of the work he's doing with 360i. The whole notion about not focusing on having faster horses. How do we create a quantum leap in being able to radically transform the way standards are being conducted so we have these links of understanding how we can unify data in a common way. So regardless of what organization you're part of, we're all using a body of a unified data model that's clear so that when we're looking to leverage those standards, we're not focusing on just converting the standards. We're really looking at the scientific decision making. And I think it's super powerful. We even had regulatory authorities in the room.
Absolutely.
And they even said that this is probably the most transformational thing they have seen. So thank you, CDISC, for, as well as SCDM, for bringing us together. Because you're not only harmonizing systems, I think you're harmonizing thinking. And I think that's the most important thing coming out of the programs.
Because I think, as we discussed it, before a lot of the information were siloed.
Yes.
But for the first time, we can see standards linking to data, linking to the protocol. Now we would have a fully digitalized ecosystem that could be maximized in AI solution as the one in AWS environment. And I think it could transform radically the way we do things, enable transformation, enable agents, leveraging existing and legacy data. So that's probably a very impactful future, and I'm really looking forward to it as well, Marianne.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's very impactful. Maybe about AWS. Maybe if you want to share a tiny bit about what is the vision on the role you want AWS to play in transforming.
Thank you so much for the question. I think first and foremost, there's the ability to make sure we have responsible AI. And so there's ethical considerations and making sure that the data is unbiased. And so at AWS, we take that very seriously, where we have mechanisms and solutions to ensure that as our sponsor organizations are looking to determine how they're standardizing and modernizing, they're doing that in a responsible way. And we have solutions that help guide them through. First step is obviously making sure that it's moved to the cloud, right? And then we talk about some of the operational excellence in doing that. And so I just had an excellent conversation at lunch with a couple customers where they're making that on-prem to the cloud movement. And now they're radically transforming how their teams are looking at the data, right, in a managed way. And so I think that's the exciting use of it. And now we're going to see the next leap, right, of using now the agentic layer, where we could determine which workflows are going to be automated. Where do we have human in the loop? And so now I would ask, all the personas in life sciences, even the data managers, to lean in, because this is a chance to make recommendations on the data. Where are you going to standardize? Where are you going to optimize? And of course, where are you going to have the human in the loop to make key decisions?
Absolutely.
For quality data.
For
right?
quality data.
Yes.
I think we had a very good discussion about the infrastructure for maximizing the power of AI, the power of data. People tend to see the data layer and the representation layer. And I know you have your own, which I like, and I totally agree with, idea on how to structure them and add maybe an intelligent layer in the middle. Do you mind explaining to people what that intelligent layer is about and where it fits into the ecosystem?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. I think we were in a phenomenal collaboration room with many life science customers, sponsors, vendors, and regulatory authorities. And I think the focus was, how do we take the leap using Gen AI, right? And so I think what we've done is, thank you for allowing me to whiteboard, but we talked about that there's different mechanisms of thinking about the data, where there's an infrastructure layer, where you're wanting to bring data together in a unified way with appropriate industry standards, right? There's also the ability to make sure that when you're unifying that data, whether it's EDC data, CTMS, RBM data, how we're actually figuring out an operational model that's consistent. And then that next layer is that orchestration, where you're able to determine the workflows for your organizations to determine how that information will be disseminated across the value chain. And then lastly is the control layer. What are those insights that we could start to automate those agents to work for the workflows that we've established? And so number one, it's an exciting time. 20, 25 years ago, we were on paper going to EDC. There's been a tremendous amount of maturity in a lot of organizations that have digitized. COVID has also ushered in decentralized trials, wearables, digitals, biomarker data. So the volume of variety of data has exploded. And when that happens, now we actually have a new problem. And that new problem is, how do we organize and simplify that data when we standardize so that we can start to automate and manually do things with the human in the loop. So it's a tremendous honor to contribute and also learn from our peers in terms of what are the problems we're looking to solve. So again, it goes back to the partnerships.
Goes back to the partnerships. And maybe a different question, and still on the partnership, is at SCDM, we have been widening our partners. So we're trying to create an ecosystem of data experts, so being Fuse, SCDM, CDISC, technology providers, and thought leader like yourself at AWS, but sites and patients. And how do you see us growing that beyond?
Wow, well, it's a tough act to follow. I think technology is unifying all the personas where we're trying to make sure, having a patient-centered trial is essential to understanding the why. Why are we doing certain things? Why are we capturing this data? Is this a primary endpoint or a secondary endpoint? How are we empowering the role of the site so they don't, what we say, have the swivel chair movement of logging into one app or the other? How can we create an elegant UI that's intuitive, that's integrated, as well as intelligent? And so I think the goal across all these personas, whether you're the patient, the site, the sponsor, the regulatory authorities, is that how do we move from data to decisions?
Absolutely.
Right? With, again, that precision, accuracy, and speed. So I think you've done a really good job having a wide representation of stakeholders. I really enjoyed having the regulatory voice in the room to remind us about the quality by design. I think it was a good enrichment for us. And then we're going to make sure that now that we're uplifting those policies and practices with modernization, we want to make sure we have that ecosystem with us. So. Yeah, it's a good collaboration in this last week.
And actually, you made a very, very good point about the personas. And now with the agent you are mentioning, they could be focusing on a persona dedicated to help a site, help a patient, help a data manager, a statistical programmer. And with AI and all the knowledge we're gathering, we can collectively create agents helping everyone in the drug development stream.
Absolutely. We say that I don't believe agents are going to replace people, but we're going to create superhumans, right? The one thing I will say is that because we have a wide variety and velocity of data, we are creating compassionate use of that data to help our patients. So making smarter decisions that maybe we could shorten the cycle of a clinical trial, that we can improve the body of evidence, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure we can get the data at the right time so we can appropriately recruit the right patient for the right trial at the right time.
No, absolutely. Thanks, Maya.
Yeah.
And maybe a few last questions is maybe for the audience. I'm wondering if you would like to share your thoughts on how we need to collectively get ready for the wave of change coming.
I usually say it's like the 3 E's. So educate yourself. What are the new regulatory policies that are coming? What are some of the new technological advances? So how do you educate the whole set of stakeholders, whether you're on the business, you're in IT, or you're regulatory affairs? That's really important. The second is to engage. So let's get into a POV and start practicing how we can apply it. And last, I would say, is advocate, right? So or evangelize. So evangelize what you've learned and those best practices. And that's why these coalitions are important. Publishing these white papers with findings, because that's the only way we're going to pioneer is if we are actively engaging and educating ourselves.
Okay. And maybe now a more personal question, Marianne.
Oh, okay.
Yes, you have been transforming many industries or many aspects of drug development. People say change management is hard, but you seem to have navigated those changes fairly well. So maybe again for the audience, how did you make it happen?
I think all of my career as an engineer, I've always been trained to problem solve. And I've always been in roles where I've been asked where the puck is going. And so I think when you create a vision on what the art of the possible is, you have to always have a step-wide approach. So I always say it's the rules and tools that have to go together. So if you're going to have a phenomenal new tool, right? Have a playbook so that people can follow, so that they can understand how they can mitigate the risk. Because no one wants to fail, really, right? And so the other thing is not only educating, but having an ecosystem. So usually the way change happens is you get some early adopters in a cohort or a coalition. They test it out. They show the evidence. And when the evidence is shown to a community, the adoption comes like this. So that's what happened with EDC, RBQM, DCT. We had to show ROI in the value, because we know that the juice is worth the squeeze. The technology advancements is really exciting, because we really think we're going to improve drug development.
Yes, and before we break, any word of wisdom or message you'd like to share with the community?
Get involved. There's a tremendous amount of knowledge. I will even say if I blink, I'll miss something. So I actively try to stay current in policies, procedures, technologies, and it really is, start even small, right? And share with your peers, because I think that cross knowledge sharing is so important for all of us to advance. And they say all ties rise all boats. So it's a phenomenal opportunity to educate and engage.
So I would say thank you, Marianne, for joining the podcast, for being a fierce supporter of SCDM and the data community in general. Thank you for everything you have done for the industry. And I'm sure we'll do more for all of us. So
yes,
thank you, Marianne.
my honor. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Marianne.
Thanks.
So, Marianne, before we break, do you have any message of word of wisdom for the audience?
The opportunity to embrace change is now. There's never been a more exciting time in our era between technological advancements, policy changes, and a real commitment from life sciences across global pharma, biotech, CROs, technology companies, regulatory authorities wanting to come together and improve the rapid pace of drug development. So I would say get educated. There's a tremendous amount of new policy changes. I always tell myself, if I blink, I'll miss something. So get yourself educated. There's a tremendous amount of resources and learning through SCDM, through technology providers, right, where we're able to provide certifications and programs. I also would encourage knowledge sharing, right? There's so many companies adopting different strategies, and it's super important to learn about that and have fun with it, I think that's where we learn, is when we start to pioneer.
So I would like to thank you for joining the podcast, but also thank you for everything you have done for SCDM, the data community, for the wider industry. I know you have a lot you want to offer, and I know you'll make a big impact to the industry. So thank you for joining. Thank you for everything you're doing, Marianne.
It's my honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Marianne.
Thank you.
Thank you.